Welcome to Maythorn Monthly for November. I'm at my former house, my tumble-down house at Oresh, Bulgaria. About the same time as I released the Maythorn Monthly on the 5th of October, there were reports coming from the Wirral at New Brighton Beach of a giant being washed ashore. The locals did the best to revive him. First they sent in a violinist on the back of a truck to see if the gentle approach worked. Then they went for the marching band. Finally they brought in the crane, because the only way to lift a giant up to his feet would seem to be with such a device. Okay, so as one comedian once said, it's a puppet, and it was a French puppet that had been sent over, and it had come with a team of acrobats to make it happen. They brought their own music, their own band, and their own puppeteers. They were an energetic lot, as you can see.
Messieurs, qu'on amène l'électrophone.
After our giant French puppet had greeted all the locals from New Brighton and generally been a bit sociable, he started to look very tired, and eventually the sound of him snoring was heard over the loudspeakers. On the other side of the river there were a host of different types of puppets, and in particular this dog who took a great liking to the local bins. I have a feeling some of the things in the bins were planted for him to retrieve. And on a final note, one of the giants obviously got a bit carried away when cutting up his breakfast, as he managed to slice up an Arriva bus. I'm just wondering how much he was paid by Stagecoach.
Last year, over 90% of our flights arrived on time. We hope you enjoyed yours, and we look forward to welcoming you on board again soon. Ryanair. Low fares, made simple.
So we're going to Castillon Airport. We've covered planes. I'm down at Portsmouth at the moment, covering boats, and I'll have some trains for you later on. And I've got my split personality with me again because I'll be going back to Bulgaria as well as travelling across the UK. So keep watching the Maythorn Monthly. So back in Bulgaria, and you may ask what the attractions are of Oresh. Well, I've already shown a few in the past, including things like the village still and a number of other amenities here. But the real sort of bars and restaurants are in the nearest town. 14 kilometres from here is Svistov. Svistov is on the River Danube, and in Svistov there are some very interesting places indeed. I've covered those separately in the past, but the kind of restaurants that they have are always interesting in some way or other. There's one I went to a couple of years ago, I've been back to this year, which has an open-air courtyard as well as the inside space. And I went in the winter last time, so I didn't really get to sit out in the courtyard, but it has a nice little water feature, a number of antique items that are put up around the walls. The food is excellent, as most food in Bulgaria is. I had a very nice chicken dish this time when we were there, and Colin had a real sizzler pork dish that was served pretty hot, and you get a lot of it, and it's extremely good quality. And there was another bar cafe we went to, which was actually a roof terrace. In the winter I'd been to the indoors part, which was downstairs, but up on the roof it was even bigger. There were children's play facilities, and there was an outside area that was only about a quarter of the total space, where they built it around the trunk of a tree, and the tree's still there, and the tree goes right up through the canopy up to the sky. And the whole thing was such an interesting feature. These are the kind of things you'll find in Bulgaria. They obviously treasure their history, and they try to preserve as much of it as possible. Never let it be said that I didn't bring you boats.
Yay, lovely, lovely!
Remember this house in my village in Kinnerton? I put it on the market in January this year. It sold in the first day's viewings, and it was in the new owner's hands in February. I bought it as a 1-up, 2-down terraced house, changed the upstairs layout and turned it into a 2-up, 2-down. The new owner, he's knocked the living room and kitchen together, and now it's what would that be, a 2-up, 1-down. He's put back a bit of a chimney breast, which we took out when we first did it. The fitted wardrobes are the only feature that is left in. Totally stripped the bathroom back to the brick and managed to create a bathroom with a shower and a small bath. Was it worth doing? Well, I sold it to him cheap, he's added value to it, and he's increased the rent by 120 over what I used to charge. Probably a good thing.
Hello? Pimlico damp proofing?
If you'd like to be in when you're out, ring Rachel.
Well, I'm still down on the south coast at Portsmouth, and Colin is still in Bulgaria. He's been sending back some pictures, and the bathroom's finished and plumbed in, and the hot water tank's working, which is just as well if he's going to be staying there. You may notice that the bathroom now has a litter tray. Well, here's why. One of Davy's cats has somehow found its way to his house. The kitchen's now finished, and Rosie is cooking breakfast for everyone, and the spiral staircase leads upstairs, and one of the bedrooms is ready, and you can see down into the kitchen from up there. The upstairs entrance leads you to an upstairs landing. One of the bedrooms is still there with the original earth floor, and the other one has been properly floored, and there's enough wood left to do the second bedroom, so that's well underway. There's a single bed in the living room, and the internet is now connected, so they can watch the Maythorn Monthly on YouTube. And finally, outside, the groundwork is still being done, and the path is being created from the road up to the house. Saves you climbing through all the bramble like you have to at my house. So back in our little village just outside Chester, this room I did actually show you a couple of months ago. Haven't done anything to it since. It was painted and the lights hadn't been put back up. I have a solution. My job for today, have two light fittings for the two overheads, and some LED bulbs that I picked up in Wicks for £1 each. Perfect.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
When I'm making these reports, I have to bear in mind that some of the people viewing don't have an apartment in Spain, so they need to know a bit more general information about how it's all laid out. In particular, it's interesting to know that the frontline apartments have the best views of the sea, but they don't have any separate storerooms. They very often have a second bathroom, but they don't have parking underground. On the second line we have all of that, and this is my trastero, my storeroom, in my case on the 7th floor, but they can be anywhere up to the 9th floor of the building. For those who know all that, because they already have an apartment in Marinador, it's my job to tell you other things that are going on for those who don't have a chance to get out here very much. And there are signs on a lot of the buildings at the moment, which is worth mentioning, where the residents apparently think they're abandoned without services, and without beaches as well, apparently. And they're asking, what's happened to our taxes? How are you spending these? The 6 million euros in IBI you collect every year, where is it? This is what I used to call the Arriva train care depot in Chester, as Arriva Trains Wales had run the franchise for 15 years. But on Sunday, October the 14th, they handed over the franchise to Transport for Wales. I visited Chester Station on Sunday, October the 14th, because I didn't believe they could get rid of all traces of Arriva on the first day. The inset shows the Arriva logo on the trains, but by that Sunday they were all gone. All of the trains that were still in the Arriva livery were blank, they had no writing on them, and some of them had already been changed over to the new red and white livery of Transport for Wales. The TFW service is actually run by Keolis Amy, who I believe are French and Spanish companies respectively, and they plan to introduce a new type of train over the next few years, which looks like this. And this is a CGI mock-up, of course, that you're looking at, and it does show the way that there's no ramps needed to the platforms anymore, and there's ample space for wheelchairs and bikes. I've also got some video of this type of train already on the tracks for Greater Anglia. I'm guessing the Northern Powerhouse Group have a lot to do with new trains being introduced up across the Pennines and in the northwest. This is a Transpennine train called the Nova 3, which is coming into service. And in my home area on the Wirral, we're served by Merseyrail, and their new trains don't come in till 2020. But I've already been on one. It's doing a bit of a tour at the moment, and I caught it in Birkenhead before it moved over to Liverpool. Again, the interiors have plenty of room for bikes and wheelchairs. They have the level platform access, that means you can do away with the ramps. And the driving cab is, like all the other trains, quite high tech. After having a good look round the train, including the driver's seat, I began to wonder how they got this thing inside a building in Birkenhead. So I looked on YouTube and I found a northern train, a new one, being delivered to its site on the back of a low loader. Of course, once I'd seen this train on the back of the low loader, I wanted to know more about that as well. So I did a little research and found out it was a Spanish train and it was built in Zaragoza and in this factory. So again, another high-tech train. But are they all, rather like cars, beginning to look a little bit the same? The main point is they're all looking a lot better than they used to. So onwards and upwards for the rail industry. Welcome back to the site of my house on the hill in Bulgaria. There's not a lot of the house left to be seen. Come here today to measure up, because people say to me, oh, I'll do you a plan, I'll give you some ideas. What's the dimensions of the place? Can we do some drawings for you? So that's what I've come here today to measure up. I hadn't realised how overgrown it was going to be, so that's going to be quite difficult to stretch a tape measure across. But luckily Colin is here with me, and I shall go and retrieve him shortly from his sunbathing, and I'll see if he can help me with the tape measure. So we hope to get started on this next year. So first thing we need is these measurements. So more video hints, and I'm using this room that we haven't dressed up yet, so it's empty and I can make some use of it. That was the full-size tripod going up. It's meant for the heavier cameras of times gone by, but I've still got one, and you used to be able to remote control everything from a special thing on the stick, but it controlled the old cameras, not the new ones. Here's something worth looking at. This is a Panasonic mirrorless camera that takes 4K video as well. You buy the body, you can buy a lens for it, or you can buy a complete kit with everything built in. Lock the lens on. Just gonna get one of these on as well. That kind of helps stray light, stops it coming in, so that clicks on. And there is your camera. It isn't as stable as some of the cameras I use, so having it on a tripod is a good idea for video. But here's the thing, I've told you in the past, a camcorder is better for video. And one of the reasons I said this was because of the screen. That's a typical screen on an ordinary camera, SLR, that sort of thing, DSLR. I have to hold this up to my eyes, or I have to use the viewfinder. I'm going to stand back a bit here. That when you're videoing, you'll get a steadier picture, if you haven't got a tripod, by holding the camera down here, because your arms are relaxed and you'll get good steady picture. Now that's where a camcorder has the screen that tilts up, and that's the way this kind of camera is going. So I can now unfold the screen and rotate it. So here I am. I've got something to film. This cherub made of stone, designed to be in the garden. I've got an empty white room with nothing else in it, so you'll have to do. This is the tip. Your arms are relaxed. You've got a kind of camera where you can tilt the screen up to you and you'll get a good picture. So there we are. The right camera, the right lens, the right viewfinder, the right results. So back at the house on the hill, it's quite difficult to find a place to stand and talk to you at the moment, because this is grown up in the last few months. I haven't been here, but Colin was here about a month ago, and he said that none of this was here. So I've said a few things about gardening before, but this is ridiculous. There's so much of it. But behind me here is what we'll have to call the east wing, because the bit that I'm going to be working on first I'm calling the west wing, and I believe it's correct from a compass point of view. The east wing is still standing. Has potential to be another piece of accommodation. So if we build two pieces of accommodation first on either side, and then some kind of a bridge arrangement in the middle that joins them together and provides communal space, a courtyard and whatever. So start from that side, move on to that side, come back to the middle, and we definitely need the JCB to knock the rest of the house down, what's left of it. Moving on, and it was always the plan on the Maythorn Monthly to have some radio archives from my radio career in the 60s and 70s, and a little in the 80s as well. And I haven't been able to do that in recent months because my big studio tape recorder developed a motor fault. Now, a friend of mine, Alan, has been having a look at that, and he discovered that there were some capacitors on the motor board that needed replacing. So we ordered those from Farnell's in Leeds. The motor control boards, which are shown here, now have new capacitors on them. It still doesn't work, and a minus 12 volt line fuse kept blowing, so we had to look further. I know there's a few people who may watch this who know a bit about studio and professional equipment. I appeal to you now to come forward with any help you might have. One in particular, a guy who worked in television for years and owns a flat in Marina Door in the same building as me. But we just press on. Alan, my friend, is continuing to research. I've also given him the manual for the machine, and it's a machine, as you can see from the pictures, that you can take apart piece by piece and work on, which you certainly couldn't do with any modern equipment. So back in Chester, and I had a list in the summer that I generated for a house in Elstree Avenue in Vickers Cross, and we stalled on that for various reasons, but we've now been pressing on with that. And the shed that was to be demolished has now been demolished. It took a big skip and it filled the skip. And the roof repairs, the fascia board and the gutters, they've all been cleared out just in time for the winter. So 2 more jobs on that list ticked off.
I know nothing.
I'm going to have to hope that you can see me now, because I've no way of knowing what the camera's picking up. I'm standing on the top of the hill overlooking Oresh, and there's some fantastic views from here, and I just hope you can see them. It just goes to prove you could get some really good views without a drone. Colin's holding the camera, so he's going to be slightly biased here because we've got some great shots with the drone, but the regulations for flying a drone in Bulgaria are quite different. The view from here though is fantastic, and I've also got similar views of places where you can get up on a hill. In Oropesa del Mar you can go up by the castle and see right around the whole area, right down south and up to the north towards Barcelona. And even at New Brighton you can get up on a hill and look over the whole of the resort. So you can get some good aerial pictures without the drone, but I think we'd still vote for the drone, even if it is because it's the new toy.
I am from Barcelona.
So that was some aerial footage that I've taken in 3 countries. I'm finishing off. As you know, I try to leave the long wide shots to the end of the Maythorn Monthly, so those watching on a small screen can just say goodbye. But if you've got a big screen you're watching this, these are some beautiful shots that I took down in Portsmouth Harbour, and I've kind of taken to sunsets now, so I took some aerial shots at sunset in Portsmouth Harbour, and that's what I'm playing out with this month. Hope you enjoy them. Sit back, relax.